Hello there, and welcome to Deep Sleep Seas. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe the day has been long, or maybe you're simply the kind of person who finds peace in the gentle mysteries of the ocean rather than counting sheep. Either way, you're exactly where you need to be. Let your shoulders drop, your breathing slow, and your mind drift like a piece of driftwood on a calm tide. Because tonight we're exploring one of the ocean's most enchanting phenomena. We're diving into the world of bioluminescence, where living creatures produce their own light in the darkness. Picture this. You're standing on a quiet beach on a moonless night. The waves roll in, and with each gentle crash against the shore, the water erupts into shimmering blue-green sparkles, as if someone scattered liquid stars across the sand. Or imagine descending into the deep ocean, where sunlight has never reached. And yet the water around you twinkles and glows with thousands of tiny lights, like fireflies suspended in midnight ink. This is bioluminescence, the ability of living organisms to create light through chemical reactions within their bodies. It's a phenomenon that seems more like magic than science, more like a dream than reality. Over the next hour and a half, we'll drift through the glowing layers of the ocean, from the sparkling surface waters, where tiny dinoflagellates light up the waves, down to the pitch-black depths, where anglerfish dangle glowing lures and jellyfish pulse with ethereal blue light. We'll discover how this light is made, why it exists, and what secrets it reveals about life in the ocean. Some of what you hear may surprise you, but mostly, it's here to help you relax, to wander gently, and to drift into restful sleep, accompanied by the quiet glow of the sea. And just before we begin our journey, if these calm explorations of the ocean help you unwind or give you a peaceful way to end your day, consider liking and subscribing to Deep Sleep Seas. It helps others discover these soothing voyages too, one peaceful soul at a time. Now, let's begin. Let's descend into the glowing ocean, where light blooms in the darkness like flowers in an underwater garden. Bioluminescence is, at its heart, a chemical reaction. But what a remarkable reaction it is. When certain molecules interact with oxygen inside a living cell, they produce light instead of heat. Nearly all the energy from the reaction converts directly into visible photons, making it one of the most efficient forms of light production known to science. There's almost no waste, no warmth, just pure, cold luminescence that glows softly in the dark water. The process begins with a molecule called luciferin. The name comes from Lucifer, which means light bearer in Latin, though the connection to darkness and light is purely coincidental. Luciferin is the substrate, the raw material that gets transformed during the reaction. When luciferin encounters oxygen, it undergoes a chemical change. But this change doesn't happen quickly on its own. It needs help from another molecule, an enzyme called luciferin. The luciferase acts as a catalyst, speeding up the reaction between luciferin and oxygen by thousands of times. As the reaction proceeds, the luciferin molecule is oxidized, meaning it gains oxygen atoms and loses electrons. This transformation releases energy, and in most chemical reactions, that energy would be released as heat. But in bioluminescence, the energy is released as light. The oxidized luciferin, now called oxyluciferin, is in an excited state. As it returns to its normal ground state, it emits a photon of light. That single photon joins millions or billions of others, creating the glow we see. What makes this even more fascinating is that luciferin is not just one molecule. Different organisms have evolved different versions of luciferin, each with its own unique chemical structure. The luciferin used by fireflies on land is completely different from the luciferin used by dinoflagellates in the ocean. Deep-sea shrimp use a different type still, and jellyfish have their own version. In fact, scientists have identified at least 9 different types of luciferin across the tree of life. Each type produces light with slightly different properties, different colors, different intensities, different durations. It's as if nature has discovered multiple independent pathways to the same beautiful result. The same is true for luciferase. Different species have evolved their own versions of this enzyme, each one perfectly tailored to work with their specific luciferin. A firefly's luciferase wouldn't work well with a dinoflagellate's luciferin, and vice versa. This diversity tells us something profound. Bioluminescence didn't evolve just once in the history of life. It evolved independently, dozens of times in completely unrelated lineages of organisms, from bacteria to fungi, From insects to fish, from tiny single-celled plankton to enormous squid, life discovered again and again how to make light. This convergent evolution suggests that bioluminescence provides enormous advantages to organisms, advantages so valuable that natural selection stumbled upon this solution over and over across hundreds of millions of years. But the chemistry doesn't end with luciferin and luciferin. Some organisms add an extra layer of complexity by using photoproteins. A photoprotein is a molecule where luciferin is already bound together with the enzyme in a stable complex, just waiting for a trigger. In many bioluminescent organisms, especially jellyfish and cone jellies, the trigger is calcium. When calcium ions flood into specialized cells, they interact with the photoprotein, initiating the light-producing reaction almost instantly. The flash happens in milliseconds, a brilliant burst of light that can startle a predator or signal to a mate. The light itself can vary widely in color. Most bioluminescence in the ocean is blue or blue-green, typically with wavelengths between 450 and 500 nanometers. This isn't arbitrary. Water absorbs red and yellow light very quickly, filtering those wavelengths out within just a few meters of depth. But blue-green light travels much farther through water, sometimes penetrating hundreds of meters before fading. If you're an organism trying to communicate, attract prey, or warn predators in the ocean, blue-green is the most practical choice. It's the color that carries the message the farthest. But there are exceptions. Some organisms have found ways to produce and see red light, giving them a secret advantage. Certain deep-sea dragonfish emit red bioluminescence from specialized photophores near their eyes. Most deep-sea creatures cannot see red light at all. To them, the red wavelengths are invisible, absorbed by the water long before they reached these depths. But the dragonfish has evolved special visual pigments that allow it to detect red light. So when it shines its red beam into the darkness, it's like having a flashlight that only it can see. It illuminates its prey without alerting them to its presence, and it can hunt without being seen by its own predators. It's a remarkable evolutionary innovation, a secret language of light spoken by only a select few. The efficiency of bioluminescence is staggering. In a typical incandescent light bulb, only about 5% of the energy is converted to visible light, with the rest lost as heat. In a bioluminescent organism, up to 90% or more of the energy goes directly into producing light. This is sometimes called cold light because it produces almost no heat. You could hold a glowing jellyfish in your hand without feeling any warmth from its light. This efficiency is crucial for small marine organisms that can't afford to waste energy. They live in environments where food may be scarce, where every calorie counts. Producing light cheaply, efficiently, means they can use it frequently without draining their limited energy reserves. The reaction itself is reversible in some organisms. After the light-producing reaction is complete, some creatures can recycle the oxy-luciferin back into luciferin, allowing them to produce light again and again. Others must continuously synthesize new luciferin from scratch, using amino acids and other basic building blocks found in all living cells. For organisms that glow frequently, like certain dinoflagellates that flash thousands of times per night, this ability to recycle or rapidly produce luciferin is essential. There's something almost meditative about imagining this process happening on a cellular level. In a single dinoflagellate, smaller than a grain of sand, millions of luciferin molecules are waiting in specialized compartments called scintillons. When the cell is disturbed by a wave, by a passing fish, by the gentlest touch, calcium floods into the scintillons. The luciferin reacts with oxygen and luciferase, and the cell flashes bright blue for just a tenth of a second. Multiply that by millions or billions of dinoflagellates in a single wave, and you have the shimmering glow of a bioluminescent bay. Each tiny flash is a universe of chemistry, a cascade of molecular interactions producing a single photon of light, and together they create something magnificent. As you lie here, letting your thoughts drift, imagine yourself as a molecule of luciferin waiting in the darkness of a cell, deep in the ocean. You're surrounded by other molecules, floating gently in the cellular fluid. Then the signal comes, a wave of calcium, and suddenly you're reacting, transforming, releasing your energy as light. For a brief, brilliant moment, you glow, and then you're oxy-luciferin, spent but still part of the dance, ready perhaps to be recycled, to glow again. In the vast ocean, this is happening right now, millions of times per second, in creatures large and small. The ocean is alive with chemistry, alive with light. And in that thought, there's something deeply restful, knowing that even in darkness, even in the deepest parts of the sea, there is light, there is life, there is beauty still unfolding. If you've ever stood on a beach at night and watched the waves glow blue as they crash against the shore, you've witnessed one of the ocean's most accessible displays of bioluminescence. That glow comes from tiny single-celled organisms called dinoflagellates, floating in the water by the billions. Each one is so small you'd need a microscope to see it clearly, but together they transform entire stretches of coastline into shimmering electric blue wonderlands. Dinoflagellates are a type of plankton, organisms that drift with ocean currents rather than swimming actively. The word plankton comes from the Greek planktos, meaning wanderer or drifter. They're at the mercy of tides and waves floating through the sea, photosynthesizing during the day and glowing at night. They exist in almost every ocean on Earth, from tropical bays to cold temperate waters, though they're most abundant in warm, nutrient-rich coastal areas. The species most responsible for coastal bioluminescence displays is often Noctiluca scintillans, whose name translates beautifully to night shiner that sparkles. The name could hardly be more perfect. Noctiluca are slightly larger than other dinoflagellates, about 0.5 millimeter to a full millimeter in diameter, just barely visible to the naked eye as tiny specks. Under a microscope, they look like translucent balloons with a long tentacle trailing behind. They're not true dinoflagellates in the strictest taxonomic sense, but they're closely related, and they share the same ability to produce light. What causes these tiny organisms to glow? It's all about mechanical stimulation. Dinoflagellates light up when they're physically disturbed. A wave rolling through the water, a fish swimming past, a kayak paddle dipping into the sea, even a hand stirring the surface. All of these movements trigger the bioluminescent response. The disturbance causes the cell membrane to deform slightly, and this mechanical stress opens calcium channels. Calcium ions rush into the scintillans, those specialized light-producing organelles, and the luciferin-luciferase reaction begins. The cell flashes bright blue for about 1/10 of a second, then fades back to darkness. Why would a dinoflagellate want to flash when disturbed? Scientists believe it's a defense mechanism, sometimes called a burglar alarm. When a copod or other small predator tries to eat the dinoflagellate, the sudden flash of light can startle the predator, causing it to release the dinoflagellate unharmed. But the light may also serve a second purpose. It can attract larger predators to the area. The copod that's trying to eat the dinoflagellate becomes illuminated by the glow, making it visible to bigger fish. So the dinoflagellate essentially calls for help, using light to summon the predator of its predator. It's a risky strategy, but it works often enough to have been preserved by evolution. These displays are most spectacular during what are called bioluminescent blooms, when conditions are just right: warm water, plenty of nutrients, calm seas. Dinoflagellate populations can explode, reaching concentrations of millions of cells per liter of water. During these blooms, the water takes on a reddish-brown color during the day, sometimes called a red tide, though not all red tides are caused by bioluminescent species, and not all are harmful. But when night falls, these same waters transform. Every wave glows, every splash sparkles. Boats leave trails of blue-green light in their wakes that can stretch for miles behind them. People wading in the shallow water find that their footsteps ignite the sand and surf, creating glowing footprints that fade in seconds. It's like walking through liquid starlight. In some parts of the world, these displays have become legendary. In Taiwan's Matsu Islands, bioluminescent dinoflagellates create a phenomenon known as blue tears, tiny teardrop-shaped glimmers of light that drift along the shore. The displays peak between April and August, when warm currents and nutrient runoff from nearby China create ideal conditions for Noctiluca scintillans blooms. Tourists travel from across Asia to witness the blue tears, which can be so intense that entire beaches seem to be lined with glowing sapphire threads. In Puerto Rico's Mosquito Bay on Vieques Island, a different species of dinoflagellate creates what has been recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the brightest bioluminescent bay in the world. The bay is shallow, surrounded by mangroves, and has a narrow opening to the sea. This geography traps dinoflagellates inside, allowing their populations to build to extraordinary concentrations. Some estimates suggest there can be over 700,000 dinoflagellates per gallon of water. When you swim through Mosquito Bay at night, your every movement creates an explosion of blue-green light. Your arms leave glowing trails. Fish dart away in streaks of brilliance. It's an experience that visitors describe as swimming through stars, through pure light made liquid. Similar bays exist in Jamaica, in Thailand's coastal waters, in parts of California and Mexico. Each one has its own unique conditions that allow dinoflagellates to flourish. Warm, shallow waters rich in nutrients from decomposing mangrove leaves, protected from strong currents and waves. In these sheltered environments, dinoflagellates can concentrate to levels rarely seen in the open ocean, creating displays so vivid they seem impossible, like something from a fantasy or a dream. But bioluminescent dinoflagellates aren't confined to bays. Open ocean blooms can occur too, though they're harder to predict and observe. Sailors have reported vast expanses of glowing sea stretching to every horizon, waves that flash and sparkle in all directions. These displays usually occur in warm tropical or subtropical waters, far from shore, where nutrient upwelling or other environmental conditions trigger sudden population explosions. The blooms can last for days or weeks, then disappear as quickly as they formed when nutrients are exhausted or conditions change. Interestingly, not all dinoflagellates are bioluminescent, and not all populations of bioluminescent species actually glow. Scientists have discovered that some populations of Noctiluca scintillans along the west coast of the United States have lost the ability to produce light. Through genetic analysis, researchers found that these dinoflagellates have mutations in their luciferase genes, making the enzyme non-functional. They also lack luciferin. The reason for this loss is still being studied, but it shows that bioluminescence, while beneficial, isn't always essential. In some environments, the cost of producing and maintaining the bioluminescent machinery might outweigh the benefits. The light produced by dinoflagellates is almost always blue-green, with a peak wavelength around 475 nanometers. This color is optimal for traveling through seawater, where red and yellow wavelengths are quickly absorbed. But from a human perspective, there's something uniquely beautiful about this particular shade of blue-green. It's neither quite cyan nor quite teal, but something in between, a color that seems to pulse with life, with energy, with an otherworldly quality that captures the imagination. As you imagine yourself floating in a bioluminescent bay, surrounded by millions of tiny glowing dinoflagellates, let the image calm your mind. Picture yourself moving slowly through the warm water, each gentle motion of your hand creating swirls of blue light. The dinoflagellates respond to your touch, flashing briefly then fading. You're not harming them, you're just part of the environment they respond to, another moving object in their fluid world. There's no sound but the gentle lap of water against your body, the distant chirp of insects on the shore. The sky above is dark, scattered with real stars, and the water below mirrors them with living light. You float, weightless, surrounded by bioluminescence, and for a moment, the boundary between you and the ocean seems to dissolve. You're part of the glow, part of the living, breathing sea. In these warm, shallow waters, dinoflagellates pulse with life through the night, each tiny flash a declaration of existence, a response to the world around them. They've been doing this for millions of years, long before humans ever walked the shores, long before there were even shores as we know them. And they'll continue long after, flashing in the darkness, turning waves into light, transforming the ocean into something magical. There's comfort in that continuity, in knowing that this beauty is ancient, persistent, woven into the fabric of life itself. As you drift towards sleep, let that thought carry you. The ocean glows, life creates light, and in the darkness there is always beauty, waiting to be discovered. Descend below 200 meters in the open ocean, and you enter a realm where sunlight becomes a memory. This is the beginning of the twilight zone, or the dysphotic zone, where light from the surface fades rapidly with depth. By the time you reach 1,000 meters, you've entered the midnight zone, the aphotic zone, where no sunlight penetrates at all. Here in this perpetual darkness, you might think life would be scarce, subdued, adapted to blackness and silence. But you would be wrong, because here in the deep sea, bioluminescence is not rare. It's everywhere. Scientists estimate that somewhere between 70 and 90% of all animals living in the open ocean's water column between 200 and 1,000 meters can produce bioluminescence, 70 to 90%. That's an astonishing figure. It means that bioluminescence is not some exotic curiosity in the deep sea. It's the norm. It's the rule rather than the exception. In the largest habitat on Earth, in the vast volume of water that makes up the pelagic zone of the world's oceans, most animals glow. Why is bioluminescence so common here? The answer lies in the environment itself, in the perpetual darkness of the deep sea. Light becomes an incredibly valuable resource. There's no sunlight to see by, no ambient illumination to reveal shapes and shadows. Any light that exists must be created by the organisms themselves, and so light becomes a tool, a weapon, a signal, a disguise. It becomes a language that creatures use to navigate their dark world, to find food, to attract mates, to avoid being eaten, to survive. The deep sea is not uniformly dark, though. It's a landscape of fleeting glows, brief flashes and glimmers. A jellyfish pulses with blue light as it drifts past. A squid squirts a cloud of bioluminescent ink to confuse a predator. A fish with rows of photophores along its belly glows gently, matching the faint light from above to camouflage itself against the dim background. Everywhere you look, if you could see in these depths, you'd witness flickers and glows, a constant interplay of light and darkness. The colors in the deep sea are predominantly blue and blue-green, just as in the surface waters, but the reasons are even more pronounced. At depth, only blue light has any chance of traveling even short distances through the water. All other colors have been filtered out by the water column above. An organism producing red or yellow light down here would be invisible beyond a few centimeters, and most deep-sea creatures have lost the ability to see those wavelengths anyway. Their eyes are tuned exclusively to blue-green light, the only light that matters in their world. But as mentioned earlier, a few species have evolved to use red light to their advantage. Deep-sea dragonfish, species in the genera Eristostomias, Pachystomias, and Malacosteus, have developed bioluminescent organs that produce red light, and they've also evolved special visual pigments that allow them to see red wavelengths. To every other creature in the deep sea, these dragonfish are invisible when they shine their red light. They can illuminate their surroundings, spot prey, hunt efficiently, all without revealing their presence. It's the equivalent of wearing night vision goggles in a world where no one else can see infrared. It's a predatory advantage almost unmatched in the animal kingdom. The structures that produce light in deep-sea organisms are called photophores. These are specialized organs, often remarkably complex, that house either the organism's own light-producing cells or symbiotic bioluminescent bacteria. Some photophores have lenses to focus the light into a beam. Others have reflective layers behind the light-producing tissue, like the silvered backing of a mirror, to amplify and direct the glow. Still others have shutters, flaps of skin or pigmented tissue that can cover the photophore, allowing the animal to turn its light on and off at will. The distribution of photophores on an animal's body is not random. Fish that use counter-illumination typically have photophores arranged along their bellies, precisely matching the faint downwelling light from the surface above. Predators looking up from below see the fish's silhouette blended seamlessly with the background light, making it nearly invisible. Other fish have photophores arranged in species-specific patterns along their sides, like the running lights on an airplane. These patterns help individuals recognize others of their own species in the darkness, allowing them to find mates or coordinate group behaviors. Some deep-sea creatures use bioluminescence to communicate in ways we're only beginning to understand. Certain species of squid can flash complex patterns of light from photophores arranged across their bodies, possibly conveying information about their identity, their intentions, or their reproductive status. Scientists have observed deep-sea jellyfish that pulse with light in rhythmic sequences, though whether these are signals or simply responses to stimuli is still debated. For many deep-sea fish, bioluminescence is their only way to find a mate. In the vast three-dimensional darkness of the deep ocean, the chances of encountering another individual of your species by random movement are astronomically low. But if you can produce light, you can signal your presence over distances far greater than sound or chemical cues could travel. Males and females flash in species-specific patterns or glow continuously in unique colors. allowing them to locate each other. Some deep-sea anglerfish take this to an extreme. The tiny males have enormous eyes adapted to spot the faint bioluminescent glow of the much larger females, allowing them to find their mates in a near-infinite expanse of darkness. The deep sea also hosts some of the most bizarre bioluminescent organisms on the planet. Take the vampire squid, Vampiroteuthis infernalis, whose name translates to vampire squid from hell. Despite its fearsome name, it's actually a gentle scavenger that feeds on marine snow, drifting particles of organic matter. When threatened, the vampire squid doesn't spray ink like its shallow water relatives. Instead, it ejects a cloud of bioluminescent mucus that glows for up to 10 minutes, confusing predators and giving the squid time to escape. It can do this repeatedly, producing cloud after cloud of glowing slime, a defense mechanism as effective as it is strange. There are lanternfish, small silvery fish in the family Myctophidae, named for the rows of photophores arranged along their sides and bellies. These photophores can glow constantly or flash in patterns depending on the species. Lanternfish are among the most abundant vertebrates on Earth, numbering in the trillions, and their nightly migration from the deep sea to the surface layers and back again is one of the largest mass movements of animals on the planet. As they rise toward the surface each night to feed, they carry their lights with them, creating a moving layer of bioluminescence that can be detected by specialized instruments. The hatchetfish, with its laterally compressed body shaped like the blade of an axe, uses counter-illumination so effectively that it becomes nearly invisible. Its belly is lined with photophores that can adjust their intensity to match the light filtering down from above. The hatchetfish essentially disappears against the faint glow of the upper waters, even to predators with excellent vision. It's camouflage taken to an extreme, a vanishing act performed through light. Scientists study deep-sea bioluminescence using remotely operated vehicles equipped with low-light cameras. They've discovered that many deep-sea animals respond to mechanical or chemical stimuli with bioluminescent displays. A robotic arm touches a jellyfish, and it pulses with light. A submarine disturbs a siphonophore, a colonial organism related to jellyfish, and it flashes in waves along its entire length, sometimes dozens of meters long. These displays are defensive, meant to startle the source of the disturbance or to attract even larger predators to the area. The deep sea is also home to bioluminescent bacteria that live freely in the water, not associated with any host organism. These bacteria can colonize particles of marine snow, causing the drifting flakes to glow faintly as they sink toward the seafloor. In some areas, the concentration of these glowing particles creates what sailors have called phosphorescent plankton, though the term is a misnomer since the glow is bioluminescence, not phosphorescence. Still, the effect is enchanting, a slow-motion snowfall of light in the blackness. Imagine yourself in a submersible descending through the water column, watching through the thick glass viewport as sunlight fades and darkness closes in. At first, the water is deep blue, the color of twilight. Then it becomes indigo, then violet, then black. Just when you think you've entered a void, you begin to see them, tiny sparks of light, scattered like stars. A jellyfish drifts by, its bell pulsing with blue luminescence. A school of lanternfish passes beneath you, their photophores glowing like the lights of a distant city. Somewhere in the distance, a larger glow flickers briefly, perhaps a squid or a fish, and then it's gone. You're surrounded by light in the darkness, by life that refuses to be invisible. It's beautiful, it's alien, it's peaceful. Here, in the deep sea, far from the noise and light of the surface world, bioluminescence is the only illumination, the only signal that you're not alone. And as you watch these living lights flicker and fade, you can feel your own thoughts slowing, quieting, drifting like the particles of marine snow sinking toward the abyss. There's no need to hold on to anything. Just let yourself sink with them, deeper and deeper into the calm, into the darkness, into sleep. If there's an icon of deep-sea bioluminescence, an image that captures the eerie beauty and otherworldly strangeness of the deep, it's the anglerfish. With its gaping mouth full of needle-sharp teeth, its bulbous body, and most famously, the glowing lure dangling from a rod-like appendage above its head, the anglerfish looks like something from a nightmare or a fairy tale. But it's real, and it's a master of bioluminescence, though not in the way you might think. Anglerfish belong to the order Lophiiformes, and within that order, the deep-sea anglerfishes of the suborder Ceratioidae are the most famous. There are more than 160 species of deep-sea anglerfish, and they inhabit the bathypelagic zone, the region of the ocean between 1,000 and 4,000 meters deep. Here, in the crushing pressure and absolute darkness, these fish have evolved one of the most remarkable hunting strategies in the animal kingdom. They fish. The glowing lure that gives the anglerfish its name is called the esker, and it sits at the tip of a modified dorsal fin spine called the elysium. The elysium can vary dramatically in length between species. In some, it's barely visible. In others, like Gigantactis macronema, it can be more than 4 times the length of the fish's entire body, a long, flexible rod waving in the darkness. The fish can control the elysium, waving it, wiggling it, moving it in ways that mimic the movements of a small prey animal, a worm, a shrimp, something worth investigating. When a curious fish or squid approaches the glowing lure, drawn by the promise of an easy meal, the anglerfish strikes. Its jaws are enormous, hinged in a way that allows them to open nearly to a right angle. When the prey is close enough, the anglerfish doesn't chase it. Instead, it creates a sudden powerful suction by rapidly expanding its mouth cavity, pulling the prey inside in a fraction of a second. The teeth, angled inward, prevent escape. The prey is swallowed whole, often larger than the anglerfish itself, because the anglerfish's bones are thin and flexible, its stomach expandable. It's adapted to eat rarely but enormously, taking advantage of any prey it can lure within range. But here's the truly remarkable part. The anglerfish doesn't produce its own light. The glow comes from bacteria. The esker houses colonies of bioluminescent bacteria, millions of them, living in a specialized organ within the lure. These bacteria belong to a small group of species, primarily in the genus Enterovibrio, closely related to Vibrio bacteria. They've evolved to live in symbiosis with the anglerfish, producing light in exchange for protection and nutrients. The relationship between anglerfish and their bacterial symbionts has fascinated scientists for decades. For a long time, it was assumed that the bacteria must be passed from parent to offspring, inherited vertically through generations like mitochondria or other symbiotic organelles. But the life history of anglerfish makes that impossible. Female anglerfish lay their eggs in gelatinous rafts that float up toward the surface layers of the ocean. The eggs hatch into tiny larvae that drift with currents, growing slowly as they feed on plankton. During this larval stage, the young anglerfish don't have an esker. The elysium and its lure develop only later, as the fish matures and begins its descent back into the deep sea. So where do the bacteria come from? Recent research suggests that the bacteria are acquired from the environment. As larval anglerfish develop, and their escape form, bacteria from the surrounding seawater colonize the lure. Scientists have found bioluminescent bacteria floating freely in deep-sea water samples, and genetic analysis shows that these free-living bacteria are closely related to the symbionts found in anglerfish. It seems that the bacteria somehow find their way to the developing escape, perhaps attracted by chemical signals or simply by chance encounters in the water column. Once the bacteria are established in the esker, they multiply rapidly. The esker provides them with everything they need: nutrients, perhaps including glucose and amino acids supplied by the fish's circulatory system, a safe environment protected from predators, and stable conditions ideal for growth. In return, the bacteria produce light. The esker has a rich blood supply, delivering oxygen and nutrients to the bacteria, and it may also have reflective tissue to amplify the light they produce. The fish can control the glow to some extent, possibly by regulating blood flow to the esker, effectively dimming or brightening the lure as needed. Genetic studies of anglerfish symbionts have revealed something surprising. These bacteria have undergone significant genome reduction. Compared to their free-living relatives, the symbiotic bacteria have lost about 50% of their genes. They've kept the genes needed to produce light and to perform basic metabolic functions, but they've lost genes for motility, for sensing environmental chemicals, for many biosynthetic pathways. This suggests that the bacteria have become highly dependent on their hosts, unable to survive for long on their own in the open ocean. And yet, they must still be able to live freely at some point, because that's how they find new anglerfish hosts. It's a paradox that scientists are still working to understand. Interestingly, only female anglerfish have eskers and bioluminescence. Male anglerfish are much smaller than females, sometimes only a few centimeters long compared to females that can exceed half a meter. Males don't hunt with lures. Instead, They have one primary goal: to find a female. In many species, when a male finds a female, he bites onto her body and doesn't let go. His jaws fuse to her skin, and over time, his body degenerates. His internal organs disappear, except for his testes, and he becomes essentially a parasitic appendage, permanently attached to the female, providing sperm whenever she's ready to spawn. It's one of the most extreme examples of sexual dimorphism and parasitic mating in the animal kingdom. For the male anglerfish, finding a female in the vastness of the deep sea is incredibly difficult, but the female's bioluminescent lure may help. Males have large eyes relative to their body size, adapted to detect faint light. The female's glowing esker serves as a beacon, a signal that can be seen from far away in the darkness, guiding males to her. Once he finds her and attaches, his search is over. The female in turn benefits by always having a mate available, ensuring that her eggs can be fertilized whenever conditions are right. Anglerfish also have another remarkable adaptation: ultra-black skin. Some species of anglerfish have skin so dark that it absorbs more than 99.5% of the light that hits it. This makes them nearly invisible in the deep sea, even when other bioluminescent organisms shine light in their direction. The secret lies in the structure of their skin. It contains specialized pigment cells called melanosomes, densely packed with melanin and arranged in a way that traps light, reflecting almost none of it back. Light enters the skin and bounces around inside the melanosomes until it's absorbed. The result is a fish that's darker than black, a void in the water. Only the glowing lure is visible, hovering in the emptiness, a disembodied light that seems to float on its own. Imagine encountering an anglerfish in the deep sea. You'd see only the lure at first, a small, gentle glow, bluish or greenish, bobbing in the darkness. It might move slowly, swaying back and forth, or it might pulse gently, mimicking the bioluminescence of a swimming shrimp or jellyfish. You'd be drawn to it, curious, wondering what it is. And then if you got close enough and the anglerfish moved, you might briefly see the outline of its body, a shadow darker than the surrounding blackness, and its jaws gaping, lined with teeth like glass needles. But most of the time, you'd see only the light. The anglerfish itself would remain invisible, a phantom fisher in the abyss, patient and still, waiting for prey to come to it. There's something oddly calming about that image, despite the predatory nature of the fish. The anglerfish isn't aggressive. It doesn't chase or pursue. It simply waits, glowing softly in the dark, trusting that eventually something will come. There's a patience to its existence, a slow, deliberate rhythm. It might go days or weeks without eating. Food is scarce in the deep sea, but when food comes, it's ready. That patience, that stillness can be a lesson for us. Sometimes in the dark times, in the lonely times, the best strategy is simply to wait, to glow if we can, to signal our presence, and to trust that what we need will eventually come to us. The anglerfish doesn't struggle, it doesn't despair, it glows and it waits. And in that, perhaps, there's a kind of peace. Kumban jellies, also known as centaurophores, are among the most ancient animals in the ocean. They've existed for more than 500 million years, drifting through the seas since long before fish, before corals, possibly before most other complex life. They're so old, so fundamentally different from other animals, that scientists still debate where they fit on the tree of life. Some researchers believe centaurophores might be the earliest branch of the animal kingdom, older even than sponges or jellyfish. They're aliens in our own ocean, survivors from an ancient world. Centaurophores are gelatinous, like jellyfish, and they're often mistaken for jellyfish by casual observers. But they're in a completely different phylum, Centaurophora, unrelated to true jellyfish, which belong to Cnidaria. Centaurophores don't have stinging cells. They can't hurt you. Instead, they have something unique: 8 rows of cilia that run along their bodies like combs. These cilia beat in waves, propelling the centaurophore gracefully through the water. The coordinated beating of thousands of tiny cilia creates a shimmering rainbow-like effect as light refracts off their surfaces. And this rainbow shimmer is often what people notice first. But that rainbow effect isn't bioluminescence. It's simply light from the sun or another external source being scattered by the moving cilia. True bioluminescence in cone jellies is a different phenomenon, seen only in darkness. When a centaurophore is disturbed, touched, or stressed, it can produce flashes or glows of blue-green light. The light comes from photoproteins embedded in cells along the cilia rows or within the body. When calcium ions trigger these photoproteins, they emit light, usually in brief flashes or pulses. Conch jellies produce their bioluminescence through a chemical called colentrazine, one of the most widespread bioluminescent molecules in the ocean. What makes ctenophores particularly interesting is that, unlike many other animals, they can synthesize colentrazine themselves. They don't need to get it from their food. This is a rare ability. Most animals that use colentrazine must obtain it by eating other glowing organisms, making it a kind of dietary requirement. But colentrazine produce it internally, from basic amino acids found in all living cells. This discovery has made colentrazine valuable subjects for scientific research, as understanding how they make colentrazine could lead to new biotechnological tools for medical imaging and other applications. There are more than 150 known species of ctenophores, and they come in an astonishing variety of shapes and sizes. Some, like Pleurobrachia, are spherical, trailing two long tentacles covered in sticky cells called colloblasts. These tentacles can extend many times the length of the body, fishing through the water for tiny prey like copepods and larval fish. When prey touches the tentacles, it sticks, and the ctenophore reels the tentacles in, bringing the captured meal to its mouth. Other ctenophores like Cestum veneris, known as Venus's girdle, are ribbon-shaped, flattening into long, undulating forms that can reach over a meter in length. They move through the water with graceful wave-like motions, their ciliated combs shimmering as they catch the light. Still others, like the biroids, are rounded and have no tentacles at all. Instead, they have enormous mouths that can open wide enough to swallow other ctenophores whole. They're carnivorous comb jellies that prey on their own relatives, engulfing them and slowly digesting them. One of the most fascinating species is Bathocero, a deep-sea ctenophore with a deep red or burgundy-colored stomach. Most deep-sea creatures are transparent or dark, but Bathocero's red stomach serves a unique purpose. It hides the bioluminescence of its prey. Many of the animals that Bathocero eats are themselves bioluminescent. If their light continued to glow inside the ctenophore's transparent body, it would make Bathocero highly visible to predators. But the red pigment absorbs blue-green light, effectively masking the glowing prey and keeping the ctenophore hidden in the darkness. Red light doesn't penetrate deep water, so the red stomach appears black at depth, just another shadow in the abyss. Ctenophores have a primitive but functional nervous system, different in structure from the nervous systems of other animals. They don't have a brain in any conventional sense, but they have a nerve net that allows them to coordinate their cilia, respond to stimuli, and control their bioluminescence. They also have a unique sensory organ called an apical organ, located at the top of their body, opposite the mouth. This organ contains statoliths, tiny mineral structures that help the ctenophore sense gravity and maintain its orientation in the water. When the ctenophore tilts, the statoliths shift, triggering cilia to adjust their beating patterns and right the animal. It's a simple but effective way to navigate a three-dimensional environment with no visual reference points. The bioluminescence of ctenophores is thought to serve primarily defensive purposes. When attacked, a ctenophore can flash brightly, startling the predator and giving the ctenophore a chance to escape. The light may also attract larger predators to the area, the same burglar alarm strategy used by dinoflagellates. But ctenophore bioluminescence might also play a role in communication or reproduction, though this is less well understood. Some species flash in patterns when encountering others of their kind, and it's possible these flashes convey information, though what that information might be remains a mystery. Ctenophores are incredibly fragile. Their bodies are more than 95% water, with very little structural tissue. This makes them difficult to study in the lab. They can be torn apart by even gentle handling, and their delicate combs and tentacles are easily damaged. Scientists studying ctenophores often use remotely operated vehicles to observe them in their natural habitat, where they can be filmed without disturbance. These videos reveal behaviors and bioluminescent displays that would never be seen in captivity. One of the most mesmerizing aspects of ctenophores is their movement. The beating of their cilia is hypnotic, a rhythmic pulsing that propels them smoothly through the water. Watching a ctenophore drift past is like watching a living piece of art, something ethereal and timeless. The rainbow colors shimmer along their combs, the body undulates gently, and if you're lucky you might see a flash of blue-green light as they react to something in the water. It's a display that seems almost too delicate to exist in the harsh environment of the ocean, and yet ctenophores have thrived for hundreds of millions of years. Imagine yourself as a ctenophore, drifting through the water column, suspended in the currents. You have no eyes, but you can sense light and darkness. You have no brain, but you respond to the world around you. Your cilia beat in waves, gently pushing you forward, and you trail your tentacles behind you, sticky threads that catch tiny creatures drifting by. When something touches you, you flash, a brief pulse of blue-green light, and then you return to darkness. You're made almost entirely of water, a living part of the sea, barely separate from it. You drift, you feed, you glow. That's your existence. Simple, peaceful, ancient. And as you imagine this, as you feel yourself becoming a ctenophore, transparent and drifting, you can let go of the complexities of your own life, the thoughts and worries that usually fill your mind. Just drift, just be, just glow when you need to, and then fade back into the gentle rhythm of the sea. There's a phenomenon so rare, so extraordinary, that for centuries it was considered little more than a sailor's legend. Accounts appear in ship logs dating back hundreds of years, descriptions of nights when the entire ocean seemed to glow, stretching from horizon to horizon in every direction. The waves didn't flash, the water didn't sparkle. Instead, the sea emitted a steady, uniform glow, like a vast field of snow under moonlight, or as one captain wrote, as though green neon lights were alight just under the surface of the sea. This is the Milky Sea, one of the most mysterious and beautiful manifestations of bioluminescence. Unlike the brief flashes of dinoflagellates or the localized glow of bioluminescent bays, Milky Seas are continuous and widespread. They can cover areas exceeding 100,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of the state of Kentucky, and they can persist for days, weeks, or even months. The glow is bright enough to read by, bright enough to see the rigging and sails of a ship clearly, and yet, for most of history, scientists had almost no data about them. Milky Seas occur in remote parts of the ocean, far from land, in regions that research vessels rarely visit. They're ephemeral, appearing suddenly and vanishing just as quickly. For a long time, they were a bioluminescent puzzle with no clear solution. The first scientific observations of a Milky Sea came in 1985, when a research vessel happened to sail through one in the Arabian Sea. The scientists aboard quickly collected water samples, and analysis revealed high concentrations of a bioluminescent bacterium called Vibrio harvii. These bacteria were living on the surface of colonies of a microalga called Phaeocystis, forming a symbiotic relationship. The bacteria fed on organic matter released by the dying algae, and as their populations exploded, they began to glow. The glow wasn't triggered by mechanical disturbance, as with dinoflagellates. Instead, it was continuous, the result of a process called quorum sensing. Quorum sensing is a form of bacterial communication. Bacteria release signaling molecules called autoinducers into the water around them. When the concentration of bacteria is low, these autoinducers are diluted and have little effect. But when bacterial populations reach a critical density, roughly 100 million cells per milliliter, the autoinducers accumulate to a threshold level. This high concentration signals to the bacteria that they're in a large, dense group, and it triggers changes in gene expression. One of those changes is the activation of the genes responsible for bioluminescence. The bacteria begin to glow, not individually, but collectively, as a coordinated community. Why would bacteria want to glow? One hypothesis is that bioluminescence serves as a lure for fish and other marine animals. The bacteria, living on particles of algae or marine snow, need to be consumed by fish in order to colonize the fish's gut, which provides a nutrient-rich environment ideal for bacterial growth. By glowing, the bacteria make the particles they're living on more visible, attracting fish to eat them. It's a strategy that benefits the bacteria at the cost of the individual cells, which get digested, but the population as a whole thrives. In the case of Milky Seas, this strategy scales up to an unimaginable degree. Billions upon trillions of bacteria, all glowing in synchrony, distributed across thousands of square kilometers of ocean surface. The result is a widespread, steady glow that transforms the sea into something otherworldly. Sailors who have witnessed milky seas describe the experience as surreal, eerie, beautiful. The water seems calm, sometimes even viscous, as if the ship is sailing through molten lead or thick milk. The glow doesn't flicker or pulse. It's constant, unchanging, a light that seems to come from within the water itself. For centuries, these accounts were met with skepticism by the scientific community. How could such a vast area of ocean glow uniformly? What could possibly produce that much light? But in 2005, scientists achieved a breakthrough. Using satellite imagery from the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program, they detected a milky sea from space. The satellite's low-light sensors picked up a glowing area of ocean roughly 15,000 square kilometers in size, off the coast of Somalia in the northwestern Indian Ocean. The satellite tracked the glow over 3 consecutive nights, and the observations matched perfectly with a report from a merchant ship that had sailed through the same area at the same time. Since then, researchers have used satellite data to identify dozens of milky seas, most of them occurring in the northwestern Indian Ocean and around Indonesia. These regions are characterized by warm surface waters, strong monsoon-driven upwelling that brings nutrients from the deep, and conditions favorable for large algal blooms. When the algal bloom and then die, they provide a sudden abundance of organic matter for bacteria to consume. If conditions are right, bacterial populations can explode, reaching the densities needed for quorum sensing and bioluminescence. The result is a milky sea. One of the largest milky seas ever detected occurred in the Java Sea in 2019. It covered more than 100,000 square kilometers and persisted for over 40 nights. Satellites captured images of the glowing ocean, a vast patch of light visible from orbit. Scientists are now working to develop predictive models that can forecast when and where milky seas are likely to occur, based on ocean temperatures, nutrient levels, and other environmental factors. But milky seas remain poorly understood. We don't know all the details of how they form, how long they can persist, or what ecological effects they have. The bacterium Vibrio Harvey, suspected to be the primary cause, is also known as a pathogen that can harm fish, shrimp, and other marine organisms. It's possible that milky seas represent harmful bacterial blooms, events that deplete oxygen and produce toxins, creating dead zones in their wake. Or they might be neutral, ephemeral gatherings of bacteria that disperse harmlessly once nutrients are exhausted. Until scientists can study a milky sea directly, collecting samples and measurements in real time, many questions will remain unanswered. Imagine sailing through a milky sea on a calm, moonless night. The stars above are mirrored by the glow below. The water around your ship shines with a gentle, steady light, blue, green, or white, extending in every direction as far as you can see. There's no sound but the quiet rush of water against the hull. The air is warm still. You feel as though you're sailing not through water, but through light itself, through liquid starlight that stretches endlessly in all directions. You dip your hand into the sea, and it comes up glowing, dripping luminescence. You stand at the bow and watch the horizon, a line where glowing ocean meets dark sky, and you feel small, insignificant, part of something vast and incomprehensible. Time loses meaning. Minutes might pass, or hours. You're surrounded by light, held by it, comforted by it. It's a kind of magic that no words can fully capture, a beauty so profound it feels sacred. And as you imagine this, as you let the image fill your mind, you can feel the glow surrounding you too, gently, warmly, a light that asks nothing of you, that simply exists, shining in the darkness. Let that light hold you. Let it carry you into sleep. Bioluminescence is not random. It exists because it provides advantages, benefits that have been refined by millions of years of natural selection. Across the countless species that produce light, the functions of bioluminescence fall into several broad categories: defense, attraction, communication, and camouflage. Each function is a strategy for survival, a way to use light to navigate the challenges of life in the ocean. Defense is perhaps the most common use of bioluminescence. Many organisms flash or glow when threatened, startling predators and giving themselves a chance to escape. Dinoflagellates do this, flashing bright blue when disturbed by a copod or other small predator. The sudden light can cause the predator to release the dinoflagellate reflexively, like dropping something hot. But the flash also serves a second purpose. It can attract larger predators to the area. This is sometimes called the burglar alarm strategy. The dinoflagellate essentially calls for help, using light to signal to the predator of its predator. If a fish comes to investigate the flash, it might eat the copod that was attacking the dinoflagellate, inadvertently saving the plankton's life. Some organisms take defensive bioluminescence even further. Certain squid, when attacked, eject clouds of bioluminescent ink or mucus instead of dark ink. The glowing cloud confuses the predator, creating a decoy that attracts attention while the squid escapes under cover of darkness. The vampire squid can produce multiple clouds of bioluminescent mucus in succession, each one glowing for up to 10 minutes, creating a trail of glowing distractions that allows the squid to flee. It's a remarkably effective strategy, turning light into a smokescreen. Some deep-sea animals use bioluminescence to shed light-producing body parts when attacked. Certain brittle stars can detach their glowing arms, leaving them writhing and flashing to distract predators while the rest of the animal crawls away. Some species of squid have light-producing tips on their arms that they can automize, sacrificing the glowing appendage to save the rest of the body. These severed parts continue to glow and move for several minutes, holding the predator's attention long enough for the squid to disappear into the darkness. Attraction is another major function of bioluminescence. Anglerfish are the most famous example, using their glowing lures to attract prey within striking distance. But many other organisms use light to attract food. Some species of fish have bioluminescent barbels, whisker-like appendages that dangle near their mouths, glowing to lure small creatures close. Deep-sea dragonfish produce red light that they shine on potential prey, illuminating them without being seen. Bioluminescence is also used to attract mates. In the vast darkness of the deep sea or the open ocean, finding a member of your own species can be incredibly difficult. But if you can produce light, you can signal your presence over distances that would be impossible with chemical cues or sound. Fireflies on land use flashing patterns to find mates, and the same principle applies in the ocean. Some species of ostracods, tiny crustaceans, produce elaborate bioluminescent displays to attract females. The males swim in spirals or zigzags, leaving trails of glowing secretions behind them like fireworks. Females watch these displays and choose mates based on the quality and intensity of the light show. Deep-sea anglerfish use bioluminescence to help males find females. The female's glowing lure serves as a beacon, visible from far away, guiding the tiny males to her. Certain species of midwater jellyfish produce bioluminescent flashes in species-specific patterns, possibly allowing individuals to recognize and find mates of their own kind. The mechanisms are often subtle and complex, patterns of flashes, durations, intensities, all conveying information that we're only beginning to decode. Communication is closely related to attraction, but it extends beyond mating. Some social species of squid can produce complex patterns of light from photophores arranged across their bodies. They can flash different photophores in sequences or vary the intensity and duration of the light. Researchers believe these patterns may convey information about identity, status, intentions, or warnings. It's a visual language, though we don't yet understand its grammar or vocabulary. Observing these displays is like listening to a conversation in a language you don't speak, seeing the patterns and rhythms, but unable to grasp the meaning. Camouflage through bioluminescence might seem paradoxical. How can producing light make you invisible? The answer is a technique called counterillumination. Many fish and squid that live in the twilight zone have photophores arranged along their bellies. These photophores emit light that matches the faint downwelling sunlight filtering from the surface above. A predator looking up from below sees the glowing belly blended seamlessly with the background light, making the silhouette of the fish disappear. The fish becomes effectively invisible, camouflaged not by darkness but by matching the brightness and color of the ambient light. Counterillumination requires precise control. The animal must be able to adjust the intensity of its photophores to match changes in the background light as it swims higher or deeper, or as the sun rises and sets. Some species have photosensors on their backs that measure the light from above, allowing them to continuously adjust their belly glow to maintain the perfect match. It's a dynamic, active form of camouflage, and it's remarkably effective. Hatchetfish, lanternfish, and certain squid all use counterillumination, and they've become nearly undetectable to predators as a result. Some species use bioluminescence for multiple purposes simultaneously. A squid might use counter-illumination to hide from predators while also producing flashes to communicate with others of its kind. An anglerfish uses its lure to attract prey, but the same lure might help males find females. The purposes overlap, interweave, creating a complex tapestry of light-based behaviors. There are also functions we're still discovering. Some researchers believe certain organisms use bioluminescence to illuminate their surroundings, essentially using it as a searchlight to find food or navigate. Deep-sea dragonfish with their red light might be doing exactly this, shining a private spotlight into the darkness. Other organisms might use bioluminescence to assess the salinity, temperature, or chemical composition of the water around them, though this is speculative and remains to be proven. The diversity of functions underscores just how valuable light is in the ocean, especially in the deep sea. Light is information. Light is communication. Light is a tool, a weapon, a disguise, a signal. And organisms have evolved countless ways to harness it, to bend it to their needs, to survive and thrive in a world where light is scarce and precious. As you think about this, as you imagine the myriad ways that life uses light, you can appreciate the ingenuity, the creativity, the sheer adaptability of living things. Every flash, every glow, every shimmer has a purpose, has a reason. Nothing is random. Everything is shaped by eons of evolution, tested and refined until it works. There's a kind of elegance in that, a beauty in the functionality. And perhaps, as you drift towards sleep, you can take comfort in the idea that you too have purposes, functions, roles to play, even when they're not immediately clear. You're part of the living world, connected to it, shaped by it, shining in your own way. Trust that. Rest in that. Let that thought carry you gently into dreams. When we think of bioluminescence, we usually think of blue or blue-green light, and that's accurate for the vast majority of organisms. But the spectrum of bioluminescent colors is more diverse than it might first appear, and each color tells a story about the environment, the organism, and the physics of light in water. Blue-green light dominates bioluminescence because water absorbs other colors much more quickly. Sunlight entering the ocean is composed of all visible wavelengths: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. But as light travels through water, the longer wavelengths are absorbed first. Red light disappears within the first 10 meters. Orange fades soon after. Yellow lasts a bit longer but is mostly gone by 50 meters. Green penetrates deeper, but by 100 meters, even green light is scarce. Only blue and blue-green light can travel significant distances through seawater, sometimes penetrating hundreds of meters before being absorbed completely. For a bioluminescent organism, producing blue-green light makes sense. If you want your light to be seen by others, to travel through the water and reach distant eyes, blue-green is the optimal choice. It has the longest range, the best transmission properties. Most marine organisms have eyes tuned specifically to blue-green wavelengths, with visual pigments that are most sensitive to light around 470 to 490 nanometers. Producing red or yellow light would be wasteful. It wouldn't travel far, and most creatures wouldn't be able to see it anyway. The specific shade of blue-green can vary between species. Some organisms produce a deeper blue, almost violet, while others emit a brighter, more turquoise-green light. These differences often relate to the specific chemistry of the luciferin and luciferase involved. Dinoflagellates typically produce light around 475 nanometers, a cyan blue color. Certain jellyfish and comb jellies emit light slightly more toward the green, around 490 nanometers. Deep-sea fish photophores often produce light in the blue end of the spectrum, around 460 nanometers. But then there are the outliers, the organisms that break the rules. Deep-sea dragonfish, as mentioned earlier, produce red light. This is so unusual that when it was first discovered, scientists were astonished. Red light at depth is essentially invisible to most organisms. The water has already filtered out all the red wavelengths from sunlight by the time you reach the twilight zone. So there's no evolutionary pressure for animals to evolve red-sensitive vision. And yet, dragonfish not only produce red light, they can see it. They've evolved special visual pigments in their retinas that are sensitive to red wavelengths, something almost unheard of in the deep sea. Why would a dragonfish use red light? The answer is stealth. The dragonfish can shine its red light like a flashlight, illuminating potential prey without the prey being able to see it. From the prey's perspective, the dragonfish is invisible, shining a light that doesn't exist. But the dragonfish sees everything: the shape, the movement, the position of its target. It's a predatory advantage so profound that it's hard to overstate. It's the difference between hunting blind and hunting with night vision goggles in a world where your prey is blind to your presence. The mechanism behind red bioluminescence in dragonfish is different from typical bioluminescence. Instead of using a luciferase reaction, dragonfish have specialized photophores near their eyes that contain a different type of light-producing chemistry, possibly involving modified chlorophyll derivatives. The exact biochemistry is still being studied, but the result is a red glow, unique in the deep sea. Other organisms produce light at different ends of the spectrum. Some bacteria emit light that's more yellow-green, around 500 to 520 nanometers. This is still relatively visible in water, though not as efficient as blue-green. On land, fireflies produce yellow or even orange light, around 560 to 580 nanometers. In air, these wavelengths travel well and are highly visible to the human eye and to other fireflies. But in water, they'd be useless, absorbed almost immediately. The color of bioluminescence can also vary within a single organism. Some species have multiple types of photophores that produce different colors. This is rare, but it exists. The so-called railroad worm, which is actually the larva of a beetle, has light organs that glow red on its head and green along its body. It uses these colors for different purposes. The red light is thought to help it hunt prey, while the green light may be a warning to predators. In the ocean, some deep-sea fish have different colored photophores for different functions. Blue photophores for counter-illumination, green photophores for communication, and so on. The perception of color in bioluminescence also depends on the observer. Human eyes perceive bioluminescent light as blue-green because that's the wavelength range where the light is concentrated, and those are the colors we're most sensitive to in dim conditions. But if you could see bioluminescence through the eyes of a deep-sea fish tuned to slightly different wavelengths, it might appear more violet, or more cyan, or subtly different from what we perceive. There's also the phenomenon of bioluminescent color change. Some organisms can alter the color of their light by varying the chemistry of the reaction or by using filters. Certain jellyfish have pigments that can shift the color of their bioluminescence slightly, creating glows that range from cyan to green depending on conditions. The ability to change color could provide additional information in communication or allow the organism to optimize its light for different purposes. The intensity of bioluminescence varies as much as the color. Some organisms produce light so faint that it's barely detectable even in complete darkness. Others can produce flashes bright enough to be seen from tens of meters away, even in the twilight zone where some ambient light still exists. The brightness often relates to the function. A predator trying to attract prey needs a bright lure. A creature using counter-illumination needs light that's precisely calibrated to match the faint background glow. A defensive flash needs to be sudden and intense to startle. Bioluminescent light is also often polarized, meaning the light waves oscillate in a specific plane. Some marine organisms can detect polarized light, giving them additional information about their environment or about the bioluminescence they're seeing. Polarization can reveal the shape and orientation of an object, even if the object itself is faint. This adds another layer of complexity to bioluminescent communication and detection, a dimension of light that humans can't perceive without instruments. As you think about the colors of bioluminescence, imagine the ocean as a vast, dark canvas where every flash, every glow, is a brushstroke of light. Blue here, green there, a rare splash of red in the depths. The colors tell stories of physics, of chemistry, of evolution and adaptation. They tell stories of survival, of communication, of the endless creativity of life. And they're beautiful, even in their functionality, in their purpose-driven existence, they're beautiful. Shades of blue that shimmer like sapphires, glows of green that pulse like emeralds, deep red lights that shine like rubies in the darkness. The ocean is a gallery of living light, and every organism is both artist and artwork, painting the darkness with colors that speak of life, of presence, of the refusal to be invisible. Let those colors fill your mind as you rest. Let them wash over you, soothing, calming. Blue fading to green, fading to violet. Waves of light rippling through your thoughts, carrying you gently into sleep. Bioluminescence is not just a collection of individual lights. It's part of a vast interconnected ecological web where each glowing organism plays a role, influences others, and is influenced in turn. The light itself becomes a form of currency, a medium of exchange in the dark ocean, passing between predator and prey, between symbiont and host, between individuals seeking connection. Consider the food web. Many bioluminescent organisms are plankton, tiny bacteria, dinoflagellates, copepods, krill. These are the foundation of the oceanic food web, the primary producers and primary consumers that support all higher life. When these organisms glow, they become visible, and that visibility makes them targets. Fish with light-sensitive eyes can detect the faint glow of bioluminescent plankton and swim toward it, feeding on the aggregations. The fish in turn become prey for larger fish, for squid, for marine mammals. The light created by tiny plankton thus influences feeding behaviors throughout multiple trophic levels. But the relationship isn't one-directional. Many fish have evolved to use bioluminescence themselves, creating a kind of arms race of light. Predators develop glowing lures to attract prey. Prey develop flashing defenses to startle predators. Predators evolve the ability to ignore flashes or to use the flashes to their advantage. The cycle continues, each adaptation answered by a counter-adaptation, the evolutionary dance playing out over millions of years. Symbiosis adds another layer of complexity. Many organisms don't produce their own light but host bacteria that glow for them. Anglerfish, as we've discussed, are one example, but there are many others. Certain species of squid have light organs colonized by bioluminescent bacteria. Flashlight fish, members of the family Anomalopidae, have large light organs beneath their eyes filled with glowing bacteria. These fish can control their light by covering the organs with a flap of skin, essentially turning their flashlights on and off. They use the light to communicate with others of their kind, to search for prey, and possibly to confuse predators. The bacteria benefit from these relationships. Inside the host's light organ, they have access to nutrients, oxygen, and protection from predators. They multiply rapidly, reaching densities far higher than they could achieve in the open ocean. In return, they provide the host with light, a valuable commodity in the dark. It's a mutualistic symbiosis, where both partners benefit. Though the relationship is more complex than it might first appear. The host must regulate the bacterial population, preventing it from growing out of control. The bacteria must produce light reliably, or the host might abandon the relationship. These symbioses also create ecological connections beyond the host and symbiont. When a fish with bioluminescent bacteria is eaten by a predator, the bacteria are released into the predator's gut, where they can colonize and survive, potentially spreading to new hosts. When an anglerfish dies and sinks to the ocean floor, its glowing bacteria are released into the environment, where they can colonize particles of marine snow or find their way into the eskers of developing juvenile anglerfish. The bacteria thus move through the ecosystem, carried by their hosts, creating a living network of light. Bioluminescence also plays a role in nutrient cycling. When plankton glow, they're using energy, expending resources on light production. That energy comes from the food they eat, the photosynthesis they perform, the organic matter they consume. When these organisms die, their bodies sink, carrying carbon and nutrients into the deep sea, feeding organisms on the seafloor and in the water column. The bioluminescent displays we see at the surface are thus connected to processes happening kilometers below, in the abyssal plains and trenches, where scavengers and bacteria break down organic matter and release nutrients back into the water. There's also the question of coelenters, the luciferin used by jellyfish, comb jellies, many deep-sea fish, and numerous other organisms. Most animals that use coelentazine can't synthesize it themselves. They must obtain it from their diet, eating organisms that contain coelentazine and accumulating it in their tissues. This creates a kind of dietary dependency, a chain of consumption where coelentazine passes from one organism to another. Copepods eat algae, accumulating coelentazine. Fish eat copepods, acquiring the coelentazine. Squid eat fish, obtaining coelentazine, and so on, up the food web. The few organisms that can synthesize coelentazine, like certain comb jellies and deep-sea shrimp, thus become sources, producers of a biochemical resource that many others depend on. This dependency has ecological implications. If populations of coelentazine-producing organisms decline, It could affect all the species that rely on dietary choline for their bioluminescence. It's a subtle form of ecological linkage, one that we're only beginning to understand. The web of light is also a web of chemistry, of molecules moving through ecosystems, connecting species in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Bioluminescence can also influence behavior on a large scale. The daily vertical migration of zooplankton and small fish, one of the largest mass movements of animals on Earth, is partly driven by light. During the day, these organisms stay deep, avoiding predators that hunt by sight. At night, they rise to the surface to feed on phytoplankton. The transition between day and night, the changing light levels, triggers this migration, and bioluminescence plays a role too. Predators using counter-illumination can hunt more effectively during the twilight hours, when there's still some ambient light, but not enough for prey to see clearly. The glows and flashes of bioluminescent organisms create patterns of light and shadow that influence where animals choose to swim, when they choose to feed, how they choose to interact. There are even suggestions that bioluminescence might play a role in climate regulation. When plankton bloom and then die, their bodies sink, carrying carbon from the surface into the deep ocean, where it can be sequestered for centuries or millennia. This biological carbon pump is a critical part of the global carbon cycle. If bioluminescent plankton are more visible to predators and thus more likely to be eaten before they die and sink, it could affect how much carbon reaches the deep sea. It's a speculative connection, but it highlights how bioluminescence, something that seems purely aesthetic or functional at the individual level, might have impacts on global biogeochemical cycles. The more we study bioluminescence, the more we realize that it's not just about light. It's about relationships, about connections, about the ways that organisms interact with each other and with their environment. Every glow is part of a story, a thread in the vast tapestry of ocean life, and that tapestry is still being woven, constantly changing, adapting, evolving. Bioluminescence has existed for hundreds of millions of years, but it's not static, it's dynamic, alive, responding to the pressures and opportunities of the present, even as it carries the legacy of the past. As you rest here, imagine yourself as part of that web. You're not an isolated individual. You're connected to countless others, directly and indirectly, in ways you might not fully perceive. The food you eat, the air you breathe, the water you drink, all of it connects you to ecosystems near and far, to organisms you'll never see, to processes that span the globe. You're part of the living web, just as the glowing dinoflagellate is part of the oceanic web. And there's something deeply comforting in that belonging, in knowing that you're not alone, that you're held by a network of relationships, of exchanges, of mutual dependencies. Let that sense of connection support you. Let it hold you. You're part of something larger, something beautiful, something that glows in the darkness and refuses to disappear. And now, as we near the end of our journey through the glowing ocean, let's drift back toward the surface, rising slowly through the water column. As we ascend, we pass through layers of bioluminescence, the deep-sea anglerfish with their glowing lures, fading into the darkness below. The comb jellies pulsing with blue-green light, their cilia shimmering as we pass. The squid jetting through the twilight, leaving trails of bioluminescent ink. The lanternfish glowing in schools, their photophores like the lights of a distant city. We rise higher, and the water begins to brighten, not from the sun, not yet, but from the countless dinoflagellates floating here, ready to flash at the slightest disturbance. The boundary between darkness and light is gradual, a slow transition from night to dawn, from the aphotic zone to the photic zone, from the realm of bioluminescence to the realm of sunlight. But bioluminescence doesn't end when we reach the surface. Even here, in the warm, sunlit waters, dinoflagellates wait for nightfall to begin their displays. Even here, bacteria colonize particles and drift with the currents. Even here, life creates light, carries light, uses light to survive. The ocean glows from surface to seafloor, from the crashing waves to the abyssal plains. It's a continuous, unbroken chain of luminescence, a testament to the creativity and adaptability of life. You've heard tonight about chemistry, about Lucifer and unlucifer, about the reactions that turn molecules into photons. You've heard about organisms, from tiny dinoflagellates to enormous anglerfish, from ancient comb jellies to mysterious milky seas. You've heard about colors, about functions, about the ecological web that connects all these glowing creatures. And you've heard about beauty, about the sheer wonder of a phenomenon that seems almost too magical to be real. Bioluminescence is one of nature's most extraordinary gifts. It's a reminder that even in the darkest places, even in the coldest, most remote corners of the ocean, there is light, there is life, there is beauty. And that light doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from the sun or the stars. It comes from within, from the organisms themselves, from their own chemistry, their own energy. They create light because they can, because it helps them survive, because it connects them to others. They glow not despite the darkness, but because of it. The darkness is what makes the light meaningful, what makes it precious. As you lie here, drifting towards sleep, let that be a thought you carry with you. In your own darkness, in the difficult times, in the lonely moments, you too have light within you. It might not be bioluminescence, but it's there. Your own spark, your own glow, however faint it might feel. And just as dinoflagellates glow brighter when they're surrounded by others, when they bloom in great numbers, your light shines brighter when you're connected to others, when you're part of a community, a family, a network of relationships. You're not meant to glow alone. None of us are. The ocean holds many lessons, if we're willing to listen. It teaches patience, like the anglerfish waiting with its lure. It teaches resilience, like the comb jellies that have survived for 500 million years. It teaches beauty, like the milky seas that glow for no reason other than chemistry and chance. It teaches connection, like the web of organisms passing collaboration from one to another, sharing the molecule of light. And tonight, it teaches rest. The ocean is always moving, always changing, but there's a rhythm to it, a slowness, a patience. The waves roll in and roll out. The tides rise and fall. The currents flow, steady and strong. And in the depths, the glowing creatures drift, pulse, flash, and fade, over and over, in patterns as old as time. There's no hurry. There's no rush. The ocean has been doing this for billions of years, and it will continue long after we're gone. There's comfort in that continuity, in that vast, patient rhythm. So let yourself rest in that rhythm. Let your breathing slow to match the gentle roll of waves. Let your thoughts drift like particles of marine snow, sinking slowly, peacefully into the quiet depths. Let the bioluminescence you've imagined tonight, the blues and greens and rare flashes of red, fill your mind with soft, glowing colors. Not bright, not harsh, just gentle glows like stars in the darkness, like the eyes of deep-sea creatures watching you with curiosity, without judgment, without fear. You are safe here. You are held by the ocean, by the rhythm, by the light. You've traveled through the glowing layers, from the sparkling surface to the midnight zone and back again. You've seen wonders, dinoflagellates turning waves to liquid light, anglerfish dangling their bacterial lures, comb jellies pulsing with ancient bioluminescence, milky seas stretching to every horizon. You've learned about the chemistry, the ecology, the beauty, and now it's time to let go. Let go of the thoughts that keep you awake. Let go of the worries, the plans, the things you need to remember for tomorrow. They can wait. Right now, you're floating in the bioluminescent ocean, surrounded by gentle glows, held by the water, drifting deeper and deeper into sleep. The dinoflagellates flash around you. Briefly, softly, the comb jellies pulse. The deep-sea fish glow faintly in the distance. And you're part of this. You're glowing too, in your own way, adding your light to the vast, luminous sea. As your thoughts fade, as you sink into the warm, dark water of sleep, remember, the ocean glows because life creates light. And you are life. You carry light within you, even when you can't see it, even when it feels distant or dim. It's there, always, waiting to shine when it's needed, waiting to guide you, to connect you, to remind you that you're never truly in darkness. Sleep now. Let the bioluminescence carry you. Let the gentle glowing ocean hold you. You've drifted far enough. You've learned enough. Now it's time to rest, to dream of glowing seas and starlit waves, of creatures that turn darkness into light, of an ocean that never stops shining. Good night, sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with bioluminescent beauty, soft and endless and serene.